Hi everyone, this is Darren from SimNation. Just doing a quick recap video for WWPF, which is our Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2025 League. We have some teams open. If you're interested, I'll go through them and talk about them a little bit. So 4 weeks into the season, and it's a little chaotic. I don't think a lot of my predictions, minus LA, are holding true. Some of the teams I had picked to win divisions are still winless, and some teams I picked to make into the playoffs are also winless. So I think the general gist of it is I don't know how to pick teams, and I may be giving people the kiss of death. But let's dive right in with just a quick recap of where we are and what's going on. We'll start on the AFC side and really start in the South. So the story here is Houston and Tennessee are both undefeated. That won't last another week. They play each other this week. Houston, of course, is a CPU team powered by Arturo Bates. Tennessee is a little bit more balanced, and this is Bama. Bama's done a really good job of turning Tennessee around and really starting to establish a dominance in the South. Indianapolis and Jacksonville, I think, largely are out of the picture. I don't see them springing back. But the big game, of course, this week is Houston versus Tennessee. I like Tennessee in that one to win, and there'll be one less undefeated team. The other undefeated team in the AFC is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh takes on Baltimore. Baltimore's actually favored in this game, and a large part of that has to do with Pittsburgh has quite a few injuries, especially at running back, where both London, the leading rusher, and Pfeiffer, one of the backups, are both out. So it'll make for an interesting game between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I still like Pittsburgh in this game over Baltimore. I think Pittsburgh's defense is better, and Pittsburgh now actually has a passing attack because they got Torres in the offseason, who was one of the top wide receivers out from the New York Jets. A little shocked that Cleveland is winless in Cincinnati. So Cleveland is Bio Eagle, Cincinnati's Collie. Just it's a little bit of a shock to see them. One of them won't be winless after this week because they play each other. I kind of like Cleveland in this, and I think Cleveland will get on the win column, and hopefully Bio can start stringing together a bunch of wins. If you take a look at it, Bio has played most of his teams close. I mean, week one loss to San Diego by 3, a very high scoring affair with Oakland, which is Peter, and then they lost by 2 to Pittsburgh. So he's not losing by much. He's very much on the cusp of being able to turn it around. The East is kind of a muddled mess right now. New England is the team I think that will win the division still. But as you can see, they lost to undefeated Houston and then they lost to undefeated Tennessee. So in fairness to Shark in New England, they've lost to 2 undefeated teams. And both of them have very high octane passing offenses. So Schaefer had a really good game. As you can see, Bates had a really good game. New England did knock off New York, which is one of the teams in their division, so that plays out. And they knocked off Indianapolis, who of course is not having a good season. They play SOA in Miami this week. I do like New England in this game, even though SOA is well, I like them in this game. Jacksonville, Soa beat Jacksonville, and then he knocked off Indianapolis. So the two teams he's won have a combined 1 win between them. Versus again, the losses he had are close. Were to an undefeated team and to the team that's right now one of the leaders in the division. The Jets are struggling a little bit. Maybe a little bit more than I thought they would, but Kevin's still trying to rebuild that roster. They did knock off Jacksonville. Uh, they had a decent game against New England. Their defense really let them down against Houston, and then of course Tennessee's undefeated as well. So if you look at it, Herman is struggling just a little bit. Part of that has to do with he doesn't have a lot of great options at wide receiver. He's also throwing quite a few picks. Um, so just give that a little bit of time, and Kevin will get that right. Um, I'm just curious to see something real quick to see if it's yeah, I mean there's a couple drops though, not huge, but one of the problems that they're just having is uh, before Kevin had Adrian Torres, CJ Kelly, he traded them both away so he could build depth and address some of the issues he was having, plus deal with his cap issue. So give it a season. I don't know that they're going to rebound to make the playoffs this year. I'm sorry, Kevin. Um, but I do think that the way he's been drafting and his ability to get out of that really bad cap issue that he was left by the former coach, I think give it a season and he will be competing for the East. I had hoped that he would be competing this year, but I think that the wide receiver issue is going to contribute a little bit to him not being able to do all things he wants to do. Um, Out west, it's Oakland's to lose. Both of these two teams have lost to Pittsburgh. That's the only loss. Um, Oakland is struggling a little bit, and I want to caveat that, right? Um, so they play Kansas City. So this is a battle of two, 3-1 teams. So one of them will have two losses after this. I think it's going to be Kansas City has two losses. The reason why I say they're struggling a little bit is right here is this, the 52.7%. Pito has like probably one of the best wide receiver cores in the whole league. Bittner and Desmond are two of the top wide receivers, and you have Chu and Fan. Um, I think one of the things that may be hurting a little bit was the loss of Leonard, but Self is still picking up the slack there. And he's just not getting as much out of tight end as he normally does. Um, so again, this isn't a bad stat from Adam Johnson. It's just if you look at him historically, you see the drop off. He's still throwing lots of touchdowns. He hasn't thrown many interceptions. And he's still got a really good QB rating. It's just that 52.7 is going to leave Peter open to potentially getting upset at some point. Uh, but one of the things I do want to stress about Peter, above all else, Peter gets stronger as the season goes on. So Pittsburgh was able to beat him because they played him week one. If Pittsburgh were to play him in week 16 or week 17, I don't think Pittsburgh beats Oakland. So again, the thing to keep watch on Oakland is they'll probably get surprised once or twice, but Pete just, as the season goes on, will get stronger and stronger as he figures out things and he starts to correct things he doesn't like. His defense is probably not where it normally is, but he'll fix that. That's saying Dustin Sousa, who's their defensive end, is having a stellar season. I think the other shock here is Denver's 1-2. I would not have expected that, but Prince will correct and get that on the right track. And then with San Diego, I do expect them to also start to get moving. They made some really good trades. This is Joe Dorman. So I do expect them to do well. Kansas City's a CPU team if you're interested. Buffalo is 1-2. Houston, of course, is another one. Baltimore's another one. So if you want to join the AFC, those would be the four teams I would say probably are good. I think what we're trending towards is it's going to be a battle between Pittsburgh, Houston, Tennessee, and Oakland for the 1 and 2 seed. Right now, the way it's trending, I think Pittsburgh's going to probably win the North. It's wide open in the South. It's wide open in the East. I think if Oakland beats Kansas City here, I think Oakland's going to probably be on path to take the West. And it's still way too early to say that, but that's just based on history. If we jump over to the NFC, I think the big story here is LA is just outscoring people. Now, in fairness, LA actually has a decent defense. They did give up 40 points against Minnesota, but they also scored 70. So just keep an eye on LA. Goldman's having a good season. As long as he stays healthy, I think LA is doing really well. Barry's in a great position to defend his WWPF championship from last year, and that offense is just humming. Arizona, though, is one to keep an eye on. This is Simon, and I probably didn't give him enough credit, but Jesse Payne is quietly having a good season. But I think the big change here is CJ Kelly. The addition of CJ Kelly is just definitely helping the Cardinals quite a bit. They also are playing some pretty good defense as well. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Well, let me rephrase that. They're not playing really good defense, but their defense isn't hurting them in the grand scheme of things because you can see they beat the Bills, they beat the Lions. Lions are the top team, one of the top teams in the North. Um, they beat Minnesota a second time around. The only real loss is to LA. They get Seattle and Bobby this week, whereas LA gets Stewart in San Francisco. That's always a high scoring game. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out between those two teams. Stewart is at 2-2, probably not quite where he wants to be, but his one loss is to Detroit, and then he lost to Green Bay, which are the top two teams in the North. But did beat Seattle, which gives them a game in hand in the division. And then he beat Cotton. Chicago's having a pretty abysmal season right now. I hope Cotton gets that back on track. But one of the big issues that kind of they're having is Asa Garcia is not having a bad year. They're just having some struggles at running back with getting the rushing game going. Like Pittsburgh, Nathan Ford is starting to show signs of age. And that, of course, it used to be he was always able to, like I was at Pittsburgh, rely on Ford to help power that offense. He's not been able to do that so far. As you can see, the defense isn't doing a horrible job. Bobby's got to work on his defense a little bit. His offense is actually doing pretty well, which is what you would expect with having Crutchell as your quarterback. Crutchell is having quietly a really good season, despite the fact that Seattle is struggling a little bit. New York was the team I picked to win the East. They are really doing horrible. The only person on this team right now that is actually doing well is Witten. As you can see, he's actually leading the league, I think, in passing yards, and he's up there on touchdowns. He's having a really good year with percentages, but the challenge is if you look at them, you quickly see that their defense. I'm sorry, that's Carolina. I don't know why I switched over to Carolina. As you can see, their defense is horrible. So it doesn't matter how much they score, their defense can't stop anybody. So if New York's going to fix that, they've got to change it. New York is, of course, the CPU team, so I don't expect that to change. Washington was off to a fast start at 2-0, and I think part of the issue there was Udo's had some issues with corrupt files. If we can figure that out, get that solved, I think Udo's going to be fine. Philadelphia is a CPU team. They're off to a pretty good start, too. They've won two in a row. Now, granted, one was against Washington, who had a corrupt file, and then they beat New Orleans. They get New York in a battle of a winless against one of the division leaders. I like Philadelphia in that one. Templar, I got it all wrong, dude. You're off to a fast start. Kudos to you. I had actually said that I think you would compete, but I didn't think you would be there. Outside of the loss to New Orleans, Templar is doing really good. You can see the offense is definitely scoring, and he's getting a lot of Calvin O'Malley and Ricky Merriman. So they're just doing a really good job. And as you can see, they have a really good off defense as well, good rushing offense. So right now, I like Dallas in this, but it'll probably come between Dallas, Philadelphia, and Washington for the East. Carolina, this is South is really Carolina's to lose. Outside of a shock loss to Philadelphia in week one, I know Invisible isn't happy with how close some of these games have been, but right now he definitely is in a good position to make a run for the number one seed or number two seed. Uh, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. He gets New Orleans. That should be a win for Carolina, candidly. But Campbell is having a decent season. You can see the balance here that he has. And then he's got one of the league's better pass defenses. Um, Tampa Bay can turn their fortune around. They have one of the quarterbacks I really like. It's just he's going to be a little bit of a hard person to plan for. But as you can see, they lost to Dallas, they lost to Washington. These are two teams with 500 or winning. They lost to New Orleans in a close game, and then they finally bounced back and beat New York. Height, I like him a lot. It's just he's a highly mobile quarterback. So you have to build the offense around different read options and things like that for him. So, but we'll see. I do like the chances against Atlanta. Atlanta's another CPU team. New Orleans, of course, is the other CPU team in this division. The North is right now between Detroit and Green Bay, who play each other. So this is Superman 66. This is DWK. They're both having really good seasons so far. As you can see, Detroit's only loss was to Arizona, and they've beaten other teams. They've had pretty close games, and minus the Seattle one. Mosher is just having a really good season. He's a quarterback out of Cincinnati, played for Carolina for a bit, and then came over in free agency, and he's off to a pretty good start. So they also have McDougal, who's one of the better running backs in the league. Um, and then if you look at Green Bay, Green Bay's getting it done on the ground. So they have Laney, but they also have Charles. They also have Boudreaux. And you see, like the only loss was to an undefeated team, which was LA. But they blanked the Vikings. They beat the 49ers, and they edged out the Seahawks. So this game will be a toss-up. I do like Superman in it, but this one could go either way, candidly. So DWK and Superman just having really good seasons so far. Um, so right now, I think the storyline is, can LA continue doing what they're doing with the offense? I think they can. Dallas, can get continue to get consistency in that offense and that defense? And I think Templar's doing a really good job with that. Can Carolina keep moving through the way they do? They have a little bit of a harder schedule than others. I mean, they've got Dallas, they've got Houston, who's currently undefeated. They've got the Rams, they've got Tennessee. This is a pretty hard schedule compared to others, right? Versus you have Dallas, who their schedule is kind of easier because they get to play the East on the AFC, which is a little bit of a muddled mess. Um, and then you have out west, you have a little bit of a harder season for them because they have to play through the NFC West. And then, of course, the AFC North will play through the NFC and AFC North will play each other. So once you get past Pittsburgh and Cleveland, it's not as big of a deal. So Detroit and Green Bay could have an easier line than, say, this season, Carolina. Normally, I would say the South is nothing to worry about in the AFC, but with Bama and Houston both doing really well, I think it's going to be a different story. If we look at the league leaders, as I mentioned, Witten leads the league in passing yards. The people uphill, normally the people uphill. Travers is a little bit different. Passing touchdowns, you have Goldman, Witten, Johnson. Mosher is a new addition. Passing rating, again, not a big shock there. Witt normally leads. Church is a little bit of shock here. Laney is having a good season. Whiteman is the rookie out of Eastern Washington, who's also having a good season. Rushing touchdowns, Boudreaux is doing really good with Green Bay. Maurice Edwards, who's a Michigan, I think he's Michigan, is he? Yeah, he's one of the Michigan running backs. Michael Lackey, who is one of the better running backs historically in the league, he's been constrained to pretty much goal line offenses because he got old really quick. Maddox is not really a shock. He's had a really good career. CJ Kelly's not a shock, and again, as I mentioned, he's one of the things driving Arizona. Bittner, not a shock to see him uphill. Not a shock to see Floyd Hammond. Blake Daly's a little bit of a shock to see up there. And then if we look at sacks, no shock here with Dustin Sousa. He's probably going to win the sack title again, which will probably be like his 50th in a row or something like that. As you can see, he's really had a good career under Peter. He had a good career under Kevin when he was at Baltimore, and just a really, really good player who just keeps winning the sack title every year. So that's it for now. I do think it'll be interesting to see what the next video holds for us, which we should be in week 7 by that point. And we should start seeing trend lines starting to develop that are a little bit easier to see. But all in all, the season has been a little chaotic. But at the same time, I think you still see some of the main players who are playing out, like Carolina, LA. Dallas historically has been one of the main players. Pittsburgh. Tennessee really has become the big player on the South. Houston, if they had a human coach, I think they would be right up there with Bama. The East is a little bit of a mess, so we'll see how that plays out. And then, of course, Oakland and Kansas City are traditionally two of the top teams. I do expect Denver to bounce back. Prince is a really good coach, and I think he'll get that turned around. If you're interested in joining us, we do have a Discord, and it's in the link. Hope to see you soon, and thank you for your time.